evening and welcome to this special 60-minute edition of Left, Right and Centre with me, Sanket Upadhyay. We're going to track two main stories right here. Story number one, short and sweet, the definite possibility of a third wave. Are we ready? Simple. Are we ready? A lot is being done. The Prime Minister is meeting. We'll soon talk about the Prime Minister's paradox also. We'll explain what we mean by that. But are we ready in this country to tackle the possibility of a third wave? Let's think absolute numbers, not percentages. Are we ready to handle those absolute numbers of patients? Story number two, and this is a story of a rabid priest who's now given a call to arms. Is there no rule of law for this kill Muslims hate factory? He is that one man, but there were many in a Dharm Sansad in Haridwar who were openly advocating for the killing of minorities. Why is this man on your screen not in jail? Is this allowed? Is this acceptable? That a person can go ahead, spew so much venom, openly spread hatred, incite violence, and yet stay out of jail. In fact, even get police protection. Why does it happen? Why is it happening? We're going to have a very detailed discussion on this story in just a short moment. But first, let's show you the PM paradox. So earlier this morning, the Prime Minister went to Varanasi. He went to Varanasi to hold a rally on a key development project. Thousands of people gathered, mostly maskless, no social distancing. And then in the evening, the Prime Minister attended a COVID review meeting to discuss on ways to control the third wave. Rally in the afternoon, meeting to control COVID in the evening. We've been asking a fundamental question. As the centre says, don't let your guard down, enforce any restrictions for at least 14 days, ensure RT-PCR and RAT testing in at least 60 to 40 ratio. All these are extremely important measures. But why don't our leaders apply these rules to themselves, to their political rallies? That's fundamentally the most important question. One has to lead by example. But to talk about the larger issue of whether we are ready for the third wave, I would like to welcome Dr. Priya Sampath-Kumar. She's the chair of the Infection Prevention and Control at the Mayo Clinic. Thank you very much for joining us, Dr. Priya. Dr. V. Ravi, Nodal Officer of the Genome Sequencing of the Government of Karnataka. Dr. Amit Gupta is a pediatrician and neonatologist at the John Radcliffe Hospital in Oxford. Dr. Aviral Vats, physician, NHS Scotland. And Dr. S.K. Sareen, the Vice Chancellor of the ILBS and Chairman of the Delhi Government's panel on COVID-19. Thank you very much to all of you all. I would like to begin with you, Dr. Sampath-Kumar. Transmissibility of this new variant is something which has been debated, discussed. Do you think that the biggest problem as of this moment globally is that even now we are waiting for a convincing study to be able to conclude that this is maybe more transmissible, but perhaps less infectious?
So really, transmissibility and infectious are the same. And I think that the data is clear that this virus is much, much more transmissible than previous variants of concern. What we're still waiting for is information on how severe the disease is. All indications up to this point are that infections from this variant are less severe. A much smaller proportion of people need hospitalization, and there are fewer deaths from this than from Delta. So that part, the jury is still out. But the fact that it is much more infectious seems very, very clear.
Okay, Dr. V. Ravi, one of the key ways of being able to identify this new variant, its changes, will be genomic sequencing. Would you like to tell our viewers as of this moment whether we have ramped up these tests? Where do we stand as of this moment, and what are your findings?
Thank you, Saket, for having me on the show.
My pleasure, sir.
India has ramped up its genomic sequencing labs. INSACOG has close to 27 labs now. There are 11 hubs and the others are spokes. In addition, India is also considering including a large number of private labs into INSACOG, and that is happening on a day-to-day basis based on a standard operating procedure to see if the labs meet the required standards. Having said that, I must say that genomic sequencing is time-consuming, resource-consuming exercise, and you require samples with certain characteristics, such as it should be less than 30 CT in PCR. Until recently, we did not have enough samples. In the last 10-15 days, you have seen steadily cases going up. And I think the genomic sequencing scenario in India is much better than it was during the Delta wave. Mm-hmm. There are also many developments occurring in diagnostics. Hopefully, very soon, there will be some surrogate tests which can be used for detection of Omicron variant, which can help in at least taking initial isolation quarantine procedures. So overall, I would say India has done much better than what it was during the second wave as far as genomic sequencing goes. But still, it takes 3 to 5 days, and sample access is still a problem.
Sure.
That's where I would like to stop.
Sure. Dr. Gupta, sample access is a problem. I'm going to come back to you so that you can maybe elaborate on this point that you mentioned. But Dr. Gupta, while adults all over the world have got vaccines in some form or the other, some have got the full dose, some got boosters. In India, there's a debate on booster doses. But children, largely across the globe, have been left exposed to this virus. Now, in its first wave and the second wave, the virus was relatively kinder to children, relatively. Going ahead, do you think that leaving children exposed for many other waves now to come is going to or prove to be extremely fatal?
It's difficult to say, Sanket. I think from all the signals that we've got in the first and second waves, you're absolutely right. The children were relatively spared. I think the signals that we're getting from the third wave is a bit unclear. There is some data that came out of Texas which showed that there was increased hospitalization in kids, but I don't think we see this pattern in the UK. So, so far, it does seem that the virus has been sparing of kids. If it is milder in adults, as is suggested, then the chances of it being suddenly very serious for children is a bit odd. So that is one point. As far as vaccinations are concerned, yes, I think almost all countries have embarked on some form of vaccination. I think the reason it's twofold. One is, of course, to protect children, and the protection, that the children don't get very unwell. So that is the limited reason for it. But the other thing is it will help cut transmission. Now, with the Delta variant and the transmission rates being high, I think that is something worth considering, whether children should be part of a large vaccination drive. But the focus, I would still say, for both illness and vaccination should be the adults, and should be the adults who are elderly and vulnerable, where I keep repeating this point that boosters should be started, and we shouldn't be having debates about it. Moreover, very recently, as of I think today or yesterday, we have some data to suggest that the Covishield vaccine is now effective against Omicron, and India has got enough supply of Covishield. So I think the big elephant in the room is the booster, and I think that's where all our energies should be focused on.
True. Dr. Aviral, what's your experience been? You're involved with the NHS. There's a huge concern on how huge or massive the surge or the spike is going to be. What have you noticed? What is the global experience? The escaping of vaccination in your study, how many people who were vaccinated and boosted but yet got infected with this virus?
Yeah, thank you, Sanket, for having me here.
My pleasure.
I think that the global, because data is coming, thick and fast and very, very, very quickly from all around the world and started by South Africa. The global picture which is developing is very clear, which is that 2 doses are having an impact on both relative prevention of infection and the severity of the disease. But definitely, as Dr. Gupta pointed out, boosters are having a clear impact on hospitalization and severity, as we see just the study from Scotland, which came out yesterday, which showed that the protection was, as good as around more than 50%, which is highly significant if you are boosted. We should also not forget that, especially for a country like UK, the population which has already been boosted were the ones which were already at higher risk. And we see that they are less hospitalized, there are less severe cases in those. And the studies show that Omicron is infecting young adults more than children, as Dr. Gupta pointed out, between 20 to 40-year-olds are being infected a lot more. And that is also the group which has not had boosters in the first place. And that is also the group which have stronger immunity, which were at lower risk of severe disease in the first place. All that brought together means that the severity of Omicron, we shouldn't be jumping to conclusions, although there are good signs. There are 3 studies, prominent studies, which do indicate that severity is relatively lower in hospitalization, etc. But we shouldn't be jumping to conclusions because it comes with many caveats. Yes. And one of them I just pointed out to you that, the increased rate of infection is in that population, which anyway is going to be, less hospitalized and less severe. So I mean, it's quite a nuanced picture. If we ever have time, we can go in a lot more detail, because with respect to India, it is even different, because only around 40-45% have double dose vaccination. Population has been given double dose vaccination, which means that millions are even at risk to Delta. I mean, Omicron we are talking about, Delta has not gone anywhere yet. So, and on top of that, our wave was quite, far back in time. It was around 6 months ago in India. So that means the immunity acquired from pre-infection is also receding, which means that, more people are prone to infection from Omicron and hence the severity. So, and we have not even touched on the transmissibility as how it is going to cause, as you mentioned. We are very much worried about NHS because the cases are actually doubling in 2 to 3 days' time. Even if the severity of the variant is less than, let's say, 50%, best case scenario, that is 50% less severe disease.
We still have to deal with a lot of people all at once.
We have only 3 days. It only gives us 3 days, because in 3 days we have double the cases, and because it is doubling
really
in that
the
much
tricky
time.
bit. It's not about. Yes. So we should stop looking at infections and hospitalizations and everything in percentage terms. Dr. Gupta, I'm going to come back to you. Dr. Sareen, now just what Dr. Vats said here, in the Indian context, isn't that very, very important? Instead of looking at in percentage terms, that this much % rise or this much % rise over Delta, the fact that this is more transmissible and the fact that in absolute numbers, whatever hospitalization takes place in numbers in a given span of time will put stress on even the best of the healthcare systems.
Yes, first, most humbly, the chairman of the Delhi is DDMA, is the Lieutenant Governor. I'm not. But back to your question, just today's data from the US, Omicron has 73% of all the new infections. And it has taken over Delta in just about 3 weeks' time. So it is not going to be surprising if it takes over in India. Second, we are just doing 5% of genome sequencing, means of 100 people, we are testing 5. Delhi government has probably taken up to all 100%. But if you take it, the number of rise is all because of Omicron. And if the doubling time, as my colleague said, is 2 days, we are likely to have a wave sometimes in Jan or Feb. The infrastructure, The people, the beds are all ready, but what is not ready probably is our frontline workers. I think a booster for them is imperative, because if the cases come to the hospitals, who are going to handle? And that should be at least doctors and frontline nurses, technicians, and other workers. Coming back to the stress on India and our infrastructure, it is likely to be huge, because our diagnostic facilities are there, but the variant is not the last one. We may have more and more variants coming up. So it is extremely important that we take it as a warning sign. There are 40 crores who have not got the vaccination done. And the variants will appear, will multiply in unvaccinated. In the US, the deaths are all in unvaccinated or partially vaccinated. So first, it should be rising. Every day we are just doing 60 lakhs. Why can't we have 2 crores when we have the vaccine? So my first request is everyone who is not vaccinated or partly vaccinated, please get it done before the end of tomorrow. And second, for those who are frontline workers, we should make the boosters available. We also have to see that anybody who comes with COVID-like illness, we may not have a diagnostic test to the best. So COVID-like illness should not be ignored. We should think, yeah, it may be COVID, and we should treat them. All the isolation tracking should be done in a similar manner to prevent further infections in our country. So we are ready, but our mindset has to change. If you are protected, then your neighbor is protected.
Absolutely. Dr. Priya, again, very little information, and information still coming in by the day, more studies, more people reading about it to form their opinion and also their strategy. But don't you think that, variants like these, there are some encouraging reports at the same time, that makes job very difficult also. For instance, if people are largely asymptomatic or have mild symptoms, then the chances of them not getting themselves tested, thinking of it as normal flu, and thus passing this off to someone with comorbidities and making it more severe is higher.
Absolutely. That's what has made COVID so difficult to control in the first place. Even before Omicron, there are both asymptomatic infections and also transmission from pre-symptomatic people. So transmission happening before the individual has any symptoms themselves. They do get symptoms, but later on in the course of the disease. So that has been the biggest problem with controlling spread. So that's why isolating anyone who has symptoms suggestive of COVID is one important strategy. But even more important, because you do have completely asymptomatic people, is universal masking. I think it is time for India to bring back masking. Social distancing in India, as you know, is often very hard, but masking done correctly can have a significant impact in slowing the spread. With all the testing and the genetic sequencing, it's important, but ultimately, whether it's Delta or Omicron, what you do for it immediately, the isolation is the most important thing. So you don't need to know what variant it is to start taking precautions. That's very important. So we get a little bit hung up on advanced diagnostics, which may not always be necessary. If you have COVID-like symptoms, which with Omicron can be just severe fatigue and a sore throat, you should be isolating yourself, trying to get tested, and staying in isolation until you test negative.
All right. Dr. Ravi, just coming back to you now, you mentioned that there are problems related to sample collection. Can you elaborate?
What I meant, Sanket, is that the number of samples qualifying for genomic sequencing is a challenge because it has to meet the criteria. Secondly, networking INSACOG labs to various geographies in the country is still a challenge. If you look at the sequencing data coming out from India, a lot is coming out from Delhi, Maharashtra, Karnataka, some of the labs where the systems are well established within the states. The surveillance systems are robust. They're collecting samples and sending it. The second challenge being faced is the kind of quality of the metadata that is coming to the sequencing labs. Unless the data is complete in all respects with, pertaining to the symptomatology, the correct identity in the sample. These are some of the challenges that our INSACOG labs are facing. Right now, the nodal center NCDC is trying to put a grid across the country, and sequencing in India is done in batches. You cannot do sequencing for a single sample. It's horrendously expensive. You need to do it in batches of 24, 96, or 384. To get a chip of 384 filled, one has to wait in a lab, typically at this kind of prevalence right now, for a week to 10 days. So what we need is quick transport of samples, and or have a rotation system where, Monday these labs are doing, Tuesday these labs are doing. That kind of systems are right now being worked out, and they will be put in place.
Sure. Dr. Gupta, I believe you wanted to come in.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate one point. When we talk about it being milder, and I will reiterate what Aviral had just said. What is mild? At the moment, the best case scenario is a reduction of between 40 and 70%, roughly about 60%, but you still have morbidity of about 30 to 40%. That is huge. And the data from South Africa also shows the patients who have been admitted in ITU, their outcomes are no different to Delta. So the mild tag has to be really qualified. So it is still a very serious issue. And, it goes without saying, if this virus goes unchecked and spreads without a boosted community to counteract and have good immunity in it, we are going to be looking at a huge number of hospital admissions in January or February.
I think that's a very important point. It's very clear that not one doctor, or very few doctors, seem to say that boosters don't work. Why are we then delaying the inevitable? Thank you very much for joining us on this broadcast. We're stopping for a short break at this moment. A very important story and a discussion coming up next on why is the hate factory still out there. Rabid priest and his call to arms. This kill Muslim hate factory. Is there no rule of law? And why is this man not in jail? That debate up next. Welcome back. So there was a situation that in Haridwar, a Dharm Sansad, a congregation of Hindu saints and seers, was held. But the problem with this otherwise pious congregation was the fact that there was a call to arms to violently murder and kill Muslims and minorities. With a situation like this, where there is open hate speech against minorities, one would assume that there will be arrests. People will be arrested, they will be put behind bars for disturbing peace in a region. But none of this has happened, forcing us to ask a very simple question. Do these people deserve to be out? Do these people not deserve to be in jail? And more importantly, are they in this political season in Uttarakhand and West UP enjoying political patronage?
मुसलमान प्रधानमंत्री आप सब लोग नहीं बने देंगे, ऐसी वचनबद्धता दें। देश में 80% हिंदू हैं और भारत हो रहा है इस्लामिक।
इस मंथन से जो अमृत निकलेगा वो धर्मादेश होगा।
50 लोग मुसलमान हैं, उस गांव में उनकी संपत्ति अधिक से अधिक दामों में खरीदकर उन्हें गांव से बाहर कर।
The viral videos that have horrified India of a hate-filled event in the holy city of Haridwar. 3 days of calls of genocidal violence against Muslims.
अब ये बात इतने अंतर है, या तो खुद मरने को तैयार रहो या मारने को तैयार रहो, दूसरा कोई विकल्प नहीं है।
It's drawn condemnation from former defense chiefs, with a former Navy chief tweeting, "Why is this not being stopped?" With our Jawans facing enemies on two fronts, Do we want a communal bloodbath, domestic turmoil and international disgrace? Even former tennis star Martina Navratilova tweeted, "What is going on?" And yet, 3 days since the event, no action against them. Police officials simply told NDTV they are monitoring the situation.
देखिए पुलिस इस पे नज़र बनाए हुए हैं और इस पे लगातार हम लोग इनके बहुत ही ढंग से इस पे नज़र बनाए हुए हैं और जो भी आवश्यक कार्रवाई होगी उसको करेंगे.
The organizers are at large, many of them flaunting their BJP connections on social media. Here is one of them blessing the Chief Minister of Uttarakhand, Pushkar Dhami, and with UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath. The same sadhu seen here making a violent speech.
यहाँ के नेताओं को, यहाँ की फौज को, यहाँ के हर हिंदू को अस्त्र उठा करके इस सफाई अभियान को करना पड़ेगा. इसके अलावा कोई दूसरा विकल्प नहीं है.
When we met the hate mongers, they expressed no remorse at what they said or had any fear of arrest.
आपने जो बयान दिया उस पर आप कायम हैं? बिल्कुल मैं कायम हूँ, हमेशा कायम रहूंगा और पहली बार नहीं दिया है मैंने, बार बार दिया है कि भारत के संविधान में आप पुराना संविधान उठाएंगे तो धर्मनिरपेक्ष शब्द नहीं है, पंथ निरपेक्ष शब्द है. तो पहले तो बात ये स्पष्ट हो जाना चाहिए कि भारत का संविधान धर्मनिरपेक्ष नहीं है. धर्मनिरपेक्ष का मतलब होता है इसका कोई धर्म नहीं हो, और पंथ निरपेक्ष का मतलब होता है कि पंथ तो अनेक हो सकते हैं लेकिन धर्म जो है केवल सनातन धर्म है.
Many of the organizers or those present on stage already have cases against them, like the hate-mongering religious leader Yati Narasimhanan.
लड़ाई में जीतता वो है जिसके हथियार शत्रु से ज्यादा ताकतवर होते हैं.
Also seen in the videos, BJP leader Ashwini Upadhyay, who is out on bail in the Jantar Mantar hate speech case in Delhi.
It's been 4 to 5 days. There is no action against these people who have given hate speeches. Is it because these people have close political connections with the people who are running the government in Uttarakhand and Uttar Pradesh? They are directly challenging the Constitution of India and law, but no action against these people. In Haridwar with Ashok Mahale, Adnan and Rahul Kumar, Saurabh Shukla for NDTV.
And thus the question that we are asking, why is this man or these people not in jail? This man as in not me. This man, a rabid priest and his call to arms, the fact that he is openly asking for Muslims to be killed and his hate factory is doing the same and there seems to be no rule of law. Why is he not in jail? In which other democracy, functional democracy, will this happen? Where a hate monger like him is not in jail. I would like to introduce our guests. Professor Geeta Bhatt is a political analyst, views lean towards the government. Sabha Naqvi, author and senior journalist. Pandit Ajay Gautam is the founder of Hum Hindu. Acharya Chetan Sharma is a religious leader. DGP Vikram Singh, former DGP of Uttar Pradesh, Vikram Singh, is also with us, and in just a short moment we'll have Mr. Shant Prakash Jatav, leader of the Bharatiya Janata Party, is also with us. Thank you very much. Mr. Jatav, I want to begin with you first. The fact that this event happened, the fact that these statements were made, and just before anyone could claim that, our tape is doctored, we interviewed these people who are on record saying today, we are not ashamed of what we have said. Yes, we asked for call to arms. We do believe in every bit of what we said, and yet there is no action against them, none whatsoever. If this is not political patronage, what is?
यदि हम इनके बयान को गौर से देखें तो ये जो इस वक्त में देश और दुनिया में मुस्लिम आतंकवाद फैल रहा है, ये उसके खिलाफ बात कर रहे हैं. ये हिंदुस्तान जो है 130 करोड़ से ज्यादा लोगों का देश है. इसमें हिंदू, मुस्लिम, ईसाई सभी लोग रहते हैं. यहाँ पर आपसी मतभेद नहीं है, मगर किसी भी सूरत में आतंक को स्वीकार नहीं किया जाएगा. और यदि आप गौर से सुने
पहले कि आप
तो
ये नहीं, आप
बातें यही है
कि
आतंकवादियों को हटाने का, उनके खिलाफ लड़ने का.
Mr. Jatav, you seem to be suggesting that the slogans that were made over there were to fight Muslim terrorists. and not Muslims in this country, right? In the presentation that we just played, we heard these people masquerading as saints. You know what they were saying? Buy land at an expensive rate from Muslims in your village and throw them out of the village. Are we to assume that they were talking about terrorists from each and every village?
इस प्रकार की बातें कहना वो ठीक नहीं है, और ये सब विषय जो है वो जांच के विषय हैं, इसमें ये लॉ एंड ऑर्डर के विषय हैं। अगर इस प्रकार की कोई बातें वो पटल पे आई हैं, ध्यान में आई हैं, तो इसके खिलाफ शिकायत की जानी चाहिए।
कार्रवाई कहाँ है? ये दीपक त्यागी इनका नाम है, ये जो अपने आप को यति नरसिंहानंद बताते हैं, मेरठ के हैं, गाजियाबाद के डासना में इनका आश्रम है, खुलेआम इस तरीके की बात करते हैं, शस्त्र चलाना सीखते हैं, शस्त्र में जयते जैसे नारा देते हैं। कहाँ है कार्रवाई? मुझे तो ये पता चला है वहां पर इनको पुलिस संरक्षण प्राप्त है।
देखिए, शस्त्र चलाना,
पुलिस एस्कॉर्ट्स, शस्त्र
चलाना और उसको सीखना, ये एक अच्छा वो है, सभी को सीखना चाहिए आत्मरक्षा के लिए, आत्म सुरक्षा के लिए। और
मतलब एवरीबडी शुड पोजेस गन्स।
देखिए, वैध हथियार रखना कोई अपराध नहीं है, मगर जिस तरीके से
वैध हथियार हैं भाई उनके पास, दे आर मूविंग अराउंड विद मशेटीज।
अगर अवैध हथियार हैं तो उसकी शिकायत की जाए और उनके खिलाफ जो है ना,
जाटव जी आपको कल्पना है, अभी आपने क्या बोला, हर किसी को हथियार चलाना सीखना चाहिए।
बिल्कुल
बिल्कुल,
हाँ, आत्मरक्षा के लिए हर एक को हथियार चलाना भी सीखना चाहिए, और जो कुश्ती और ताइक्वांडो, जूडो जैसी जो है ना ये वो है खेल है, उनको उसमें भी पार्टिसिपेट करना चाहिए।
मुझे नहीं लगता है इस स्पीच में वो कुश्ती और जूडो, आप तो ऐसे बोल रहे हैं जैसे बच्चों की कॉलोनी में ट्रेनिंग हो रही हो कि थोड़ा सा जूडो सीख लो, ब्लैक बेल्ट कराटे हो जाओ। What they were trying to say was that forget swords, go for high-tech weapons.
अगर इस प्रकार की कोई घटना है, अगर कुछ इस प्रकार की वहां पर प्रतिक्रिया चल रही है, तो वो जांच योग्य है और जांच की जानी चाहिए, और लॉ एंड ऑर्डर जो है उसको ध्यान देगा।
DGP Vikram Singh, you are the former DGP of Uttar Pradesh. I want to know from you, we spoke to the police. You forget everything else. I will ask for political accountability later. Let's talk about the cops. So we asked this question of the cops in Haridwar, and they said that nobody has come forward and complained. As the former DGP of Uttar Pradesh, Mr. Singh, do you feel that this should ideally be the response of the police, that we'll wait for some complainant to come before we take action?
No, Sanket ji, I'm very disappointed. I had expected a lot more from the police, in the sense that the police has to be proactive. They have an intelligence department that feeds them on whatever is happening on the communal front, and in the context that they were openly going around with absolutely incendiary and inflammatory slogans, and also the call to arm themselves against the Muslims. That is absolutely unacceptable. They should have lodged an FIR suo moto. The police does not have to be dependent on anyone that the complaint has not come, therefore they will not lodge an FIR. A suo moto lodging of an FIR and immediate preemptive action under 151 of the CRPC, as also 295A, 153A of the IPC, also the public order clause of the National Security Act. These things should have happened in the first 24 hours, to give them a long rope and to allow them, and then mark time. I saw the response of the additional SP city of Haridwar, and I'm absolutely disappointed by his conduct, by his body language, and the wishy-washy attitude.
Absolutely. Professor Geeta Bhatt, if this is not a result of political patronage, what is? And also, will we be ready for the consequences of these experiments with hate? The reason why I'm asking you this question, what if some of the supporters of these men masquerading as sadhus, what if any one of these supporters actually gets up, whips out a pistol and shoots someone? Then who will take responsibility?
Well, Sanket ji, see, in case of inciting any kind of violence, then it needs to be condemned. And yes, definitely, law must take its course, action must be taken. And, extremities in terms of expression, in terms of behavior, in terms of communication, that too from any public podium is something which needs to be resisted. and people should be more responsible in communicating. And this is just one example. This is what we are discussing this over here. I just saw recently that Mr. Asauddin Owaisi in Uttar Pradesh is threatening from public podium the Uttar Pradesh police, saying that the present ruling dispensation is not going to remain forever, and you better beware because we Muslims are going to see to it. So why is it any kind of extremities, whether this or that, it needs to be condemned, and we must ensure that those who are, whether they are in the political
Professor
arena
Bhatt,
or whether they are,
I hold no grief for Mr. Owaisi, and I don't know what he has said. But are you trying to equate? Are you trying to equate this with a statement that has been made very openly by not one, but not two, but at least 10 people masquerading as Hindu saints
Sanket ji, I have opening
in an open call to arms?
That you see, any kind of incitement of violence needs to be condemned.
No, not condemned. Where is the action?
There should be an action, but the action has
who will take that action? That's the point. Why?
2 years back, when there
You are sympathetic towards the ruling dispensation. Don't you feel that it harms the reputation of the government of Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand that for 3 days there is no action?
Was any action taken against them? Why it was not taken? Even in NTCA rights, NTCA
So take action. Whose police is it?
MIM leaders were
Professor Bhatt, whose police is it? If you feel, Professor Bhatt, very simple question. I am not holding any brief for any religion. If you feel that there is religious extremism, if there are comments that are being made that incite violence, take action. These are your governments. Where is the action? Similarly, what is wrong in expecting action against this man? He is openly inciting violence. My question was, tomorrow if someone is killed, who will take responsibility for that as a consequence of his hate?
Sanket ji, I agree with you, and I have that's what I have been trying to say, that any kind of incitement of violence, irrespective of to which caste, community, creed, religion one belongs, that irrespective of that, there must be an action, and people should be held accountable if they are trying to incite violence.
Sabha Naqvi, can any of this happen without political patronage?
I think the answer is very obvious, Sanket. We all know it cannot happen. Thank you to the former DGP Vikram Singh for saying this. But obviously the police is not acting because these events are taking place under the patronage of two governments, both BJP, both facing tough elections. So this is, and you show me a speech, show me any speech by Muslims saying they're going to kill people, and tell me if the most draconian laws are not going to be applied on them. So I find it absurd to try and create this parity.
No, as they should be.
A problem.
I'm saying that if something like this has been said by a rabid Muslim cleric,
they should be.
The toughest of the action must be, as mandated by the law, must be applied.
So just by
likewise
saying,
in this
just
case.
By saying, so I'd like to just finish just by saying that Owaisi exists. Therefore, people have a right to say kill Muslims. I mean, kill. I mean, so this is murderous. This has shamed India all over the world. This will not be ignored, Sanket. You know it. This is international news that this land known for Mahatma Gandhi and non-violent protest has deteriorated to this. But it is indeed the reality, and you know it, and I know it. It is coming out of political compulsion, which has unleashed this horrible, ugly, hate-filled thing. These men should all be rounded up and put behind bars. They are telling people to kill people. That is it. It's murder. Forget who they are saying. They are asking somebody to kill someone. Mr. Jatav is trying to make an excuse for them. With Mr. Jatav, what about that era when Dalits used to be, and they still are, beaten, lynched, killed? It all happens in this country. It is a shame that somebody doesn't recognize one kind of violence begets the other kind of violence. What is happening right now, just for electoral reason, you're allowing all this to happen. You're not stopping it. You keep it under control. These are all part of the same ecosystem, from the moderate to the extreme. They are working with police protection. Otherwise, which police would not act against a whole gathering of people saying kill, murder? So we know that.
Acharya Chetan Sharma, I want to bring you in at this moment. You see, do you think that speeches like these in the name of Dharm Sansar, and for anyone in the BJP who says that, we have nothing to do with this, you had a BJP leader sitting on that stage. He in fact even gave a speech. He's out on bail in another case, an event organized by him at Jantar Mantar, where he said that I had left by then. Here he can't say that, he just gave a speech. His name is Mr. Ashwini Upadhyay. Acharya Chetan Sharma, do you feel that incidents like these are actually harming Hinduism or anyone who believes in the grand Hindu cause?
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल संकेत जी, जैसा कि जिस तरीके का वातावरण बना हुआ है, तो मुझे कार्ल मार्क्स की एक कोट याद आता है कि धर्म जो है अफीम की तरह काम करता है, और जो भी नेता धर्म के नाम पर एक तरीके से समाज में, देश में विखंडन करना चाहते हैं, वो एक तरीके से इनको अफीम ही चटा रहे हैं। और अफीम खाने के बाद आदमी मदमस्त बन जाता है। इसी तरीके से धर्म के नाम पे भी ये लोगों को गुमराह कर रहे हैं। सांप्रदायिकता जो मुंशी प्रेमचंद जी ने बड़ी एक सटीक बात कही थी कि सांप्रदायिकता जब भी आती है वो चादर ओढ़ के आती है, क्योंकि उसको अकेले आने में लज्जा आती है। जब भी सांप्रदायिकता धर्म के नाम पर आती है तो समाज में इस तरीके से विखंडन का काम किया जाता है। और ये तो सर्वविदित है कि अभी चुनाव आ रहे हैं, तो ऐसी घटनाएं और भी होगी। और भारतीय गणतंत्र के लिए और किसी भी धर्म के लिए इस विश्व में धर्म एक ही है, और धर्म के भी दो भाग होते हैं, एक तो अध्यात्म और एक सांप्रदायिकता। संप्रदाय का मतलब ये है कि अध्यात्म यानी परमात्मा को प्राप्ति के लिए आपके अलग अलग मेथड से आप जा सकते हैं, अलग अलग क्रियाक्रम से, मेथड से जा सकते हैं। लेकिन सांप्रदायिकता ही धर्म है, ये एक तरीके से बहुत बड़ा भ्रम है, और इसको हम अभी तक भी धार्मिक तौर पर पूरी तरीके से जागरूक नहीं हुए। और इसका बहुत बड़ा जो एक तरीके से दोष है वो हमारे धर्म गुरुओं का है। धर्म गुरुओं को अध्यात्म परमात्मा की प्राप्ति के लिए जो रास्ते हैं, उस रास्तों को बताया जा सकता है। तो आप ये नहीं कह सकते कि दूसरा व्यक्ति, जो दूसरा संप्रदाय का व्यक्ति है, वो अपनी विधि से परमात्मा को प्राप्त करने की कोशिश कर रहा है, वो धार्मिक नहीं है। यानी दूसरों को एक तरीके से नीचा दिखाकर अपने धर्म को श्रेष्ठ करने की जो ये प्रवृत्ति है, ये राजनेताओं द्वारा
also this intermingling of politics with religion. Acharya Pandit Ajay Gautam, I want to come to you now. For political gains is very obvious. My point is, and I know you have appeared on a program earlier also with me, Pandit Ajay Gautam, मैं आपसे ये जानना चाहता हूं कि अगर तुष्टीकरण के चलते कभी पहले किसी और समुदाय को कुछ लाभ पहुंचाने की कोशिश हो या किसी और समुदाय को ठेस पहुंचा दी गई हो, तो उससे ये साबित हो जाता है कि अब इस समुदाय के कुछ लोग इस तरीके की बातें करते हैं कि बंदूक उठा लो, मार डालो, मर जाओ, मार जाओ।
Sanket ji, in our country we have the one CRPC and one IP. As far as concerned to the when Akbaruddin Owaisi threatened to kill the 100 crore Hindus and wave the police for 15 minutes, of that time neither CRPC nor IPC has applied to him, and he is free right now. He is a free bird right now. In 2014,
no, so I hope you realize you are asking these questions of your government.
Sir, allow me.
Who is in power?
I cut short my points. I cut short my submission. I simply said, in the CA protest, when the Junail peoples and lot of people threatened to kill our Honorable Home Minister, our Honorable Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh and our Honorable Prime Minister, कि we will come इनको मार के लेंगे आजादी. Then tell me the name of one
Ajay Gautam, why are two wrongs making a right? Who is the Home Minister? Who is the Prime Minister?
Amit Shah.
So,
मार के लेंगे आजादी.
Ask this question of them, why has the case not been registered? Why these people, as I said at the very beginning, anyone who is inciting violence needs to be arrested.
Sir, what I am saying, when a person belongs to the Muslim community and he threatened to kill the Home Minister,
you're not understanding my point.
Who said that?
Pandit Ajay Gautam, I don't know who has said that, and whoever has said that should be arrested.
Would have been arrested.
I think Pandit Ajay Gautam is upset with the central government. He is upset with Mr. Narendra Modi. Shyam Prakash Jadhav, it seems sadhus and saints are very upset with the BJP for not taking action against people allegedly from the Muslim community who are threatening to kill the Prime Minister. Take action. Identify, take action.
I want
Otherwise,
to
this is like one endless rant.
संकेत जी,
उस समय वो कहा था, इस समय ये कहा था. Take action. Take action against everyone.
संकेत जी,
संकेत
हमारी
जी।
राजनीति में धर्म का उपयोग होते हुए पिछले 15 साल से बहुत ज्यादा देखा है. हमने हिंदू टेररिज्म, सैफरॉन टेररिज्म जैसे नाम कांग्रेस ने हिंदुस्तान में दिए. हमने 26/11 के जो अपराधी हैं, जिन्होंने आतंकवादियों को किस तरीके से कांग्रेस ने उनको पनाह दी, उनके नाम पर इन्होंने आरएसएस को बदनाम करने की कोशिश की. ये देखिए कि हम यहाँ पर धर्म का दुरुपयोग होते हुए खूब देख रहे हैं. कहां पर क्या एक्शन लिए गए वो भी हम लोगों ने देखा है. जबरदस्ती बेगुनाहों को जेलों में सड़ाने का प्रयास किया गया.
जाटव जी, मेरा सवाल आपसे सिर्फ इतना है,
मगर यहाँ पर ये
सिर्फ
जो
इसलिए कि आपने एक पिछली सरकार पर आरोप लगाया, उसके चलते अब आप ये जस्टिफाई करेंगे?
देखिए, जो गलत हो रहा है, जो कोई गलत अंजाम देना चाह रहा है, उसके खिलाफ
Then Jatav ji, today on national television you should say that this man called Deepak Tyagi, also known as Yati Narasimhan, should be arrested.
अगर आप
अगर नहीं, ये तो रिकॉर्ड है. इन लोग और रिकॉर्ड जाकर के कह रहे हैं कि हम दोबारा करेंगे, हम अपने एक एक वर्ड्स पे टिके हुए हैं. आप बताइए एक्शन होना चाहिए या नहीं?
तो इनको कानून जो है वो किसी भी सूरत में बख्शेगा नहीं.
अब कानून
अगर
किसके हाथ में?
कानून हाथ में लिया तो कानून किसी भी सूरत में इनको नहीं छोड़ेगा.
किसके हाथ में है? Who is responsible for law and order in Uttarakhand and Uttar Pradesh? Tell me.
बिल्कुल नहीं, कानून जो है पुलिस प्रशासन इसको देख रहा है.
पुलिस प्रशासन
जहां पर
किसकी है? Which government does the police प्रशासन report to?
गवर्नमेंट से, अरे गवर्नमेंट तो आज के समय में बिल्कुल पाक और एकदम पारदर्शी काम कर रही है. लॉ एंड ऑर्डर पाक एंड पारदर्शी काम कर रहा है. और आप देखिए कि जो भी अपने हाथ में लॉ एंड ऑर्डर लेगा वो हर हालत में जो है उसको भुगतेगा.
I just want to say one thing.
Yes, Sabha Naqvi.
I just, Sanket, I just want to not get into the tutu meme. I do believe that arrests will have to take place because I am certain that legal action will happen. There will be now appeals in courts and the courts will take note of this. And that is what will happen. So they will have to act. You know, and there has been a very embarrassing event for the BJP because the Supreme Court started to monitor the SIT involving the death of farmers in Lakhimpur Kheri. It was embarrassing. So now the courts, you have seen former army chief, former navy chief, have former defense chiefs have said what is happening to this country that they have protected. Even people on the middle ground are just getting appalled. This is against humanity what is happening.
I don't know.
So
I just hope we don't reach a situation where there are comments like this is some international, this famous terminology called international conspiracy.
Yeah.
I just feel, I see it coming on everything.
Yeah, sure. But there will be,
there is an international conspiracy.
There will be actions through the courts. I'm sure of it. Some people will move the courts and the courts
DGP Vikram Singh. Do you feel that there must be exemplary punishment over here, even for the police officials who are dragging their feet? Why? After all, why?
Sanket ji, law is unsparing. I would like to say that the CRPC, IPC and all law books say, irrespective of caste, anyone who has crossed the Lakshman Rekha has to be accounted for, irrespective of the community. It does not say a person belonging to any particular community. Therefore, I say that not only those who have transgressed the rule of law, those police officers who did not act when they were supposed to act, who did not intervene when they had to intervene, who were like Rip Van Winkle sleeping away to glory in the Midsummer Night's Dream, they also need to be pulled up and taken to task. Because there cannot be more horrific or unmitigated disaster than a police officer who is not accountable to the rule of law. And therefore, my appeal to the government would be to take action against both the erring and delinquent police officers and those so-called Sant Samagam who exhorted and came out with fiery and incendiary slogans. Exemplary punishment needs to be given to both.
Any saint who raises a call to arms, who wants a violent revenge or a violent solution, almost, in the direction of the last solution of the Nazis, cannot be a Hindu saint. It is just not possible. It's very, very clear. Thank you very much to all of you all on the Coup app. Many of our viewers have been writing. Trick or Treat is one viewer who says that we can't tolerate any such hate speech against any community. There's another viewer who says, how can we stop and lessen this hate mongering among people? Another viewer, Rashmeet Kaur, says, why the rules are biased, especially when it comes to a religion. And another viewer, Anu, says, hate speech laws in India which aim to prevent many ethnic and religious communities are not working here. But the point is, as we end this broadcast, the governments must walk the talk. If you say that law and order has improved in your respective states, arrest these people who are masquerading as Hindu saints. Good night and goodbye.